section 5.4, which again starts on page 222, it says, when you deposit money into a savings account, you are permitting the bank to use the money. The bank pays interest, the amount of money paid for the use of the lender's money. The most common method for calculating interest is simple interest formula. This is interest paid on the original principal, the amount of money earned or earning interest. Simple interest is based on three factors. The principal, which again, the principal is how much you start with. The annual interest rate, which is the percent of the principal earned as interest in 1 year. So that a rate is always as a percent. And the amount of time for which the principal is borrowed or invested. So a lot of times when we refer to time, it's in years. Okay? So the formula that you're going to have for this, it says interest equals principal times the rate times the time. Okay? That's our formula for this. Now, in a little bit easier formats or whatever, we use letters for a lot of this stuff. If you haven't figured that out yet, with me, I don't like to write, and that's why my writing is sloppy and I misspell words a lot. So we use symbols a lot of times. You would see this formula from me more as I equals PRT. That is the symbols for that words that I just put up there. Okay? Then it says on here, note that this formula expresses a rate as a percent and time is in years or fraction of a year. If the interest is computed then deposited into the account, you have a new quantity called the amount. Now, when you look at the amount, just so that you guys know, this is the interest that you earned. This isn't how much is in the account. This is the interest. Okay? So when you figure out what the interest is, and we've talked about interest before. Remember when we talked about checking accounts that give you interest? Like mine does? Okay? This interest is, again, in order to figure out the amount that's actually in your account, then what you're going to do is you're going to take your principal and add to it the interest. And this will tell you how much is in your account. Okay? Interest is always added into your account. I just got my bank statement from my savings account the other day, and I think they added $2 and some cents in there. That was my interest that I earned for that month. Okay? Because mine's calculated monthly. So, on here, this is where we need to be really, really careful. On number 1, on the top of page 223, it says, determine the interest and the amount for the indicated time. And it gives you different times. The time is always in years. So you need to be very careful. When it says the principal is $4,000, and the rate is 6%. And for part A, they want you to find it after 4 years. So what happens for this? Some of you are graduating this year, hopefully. Okay? So let's say that for graduation, you get $4,000. Instead of going and spending it, buying a new car or something like that, you decide, I'm going to put it into a savings account. I get 6% interest for the year. After I graduate from college, after 4 years, now I'm going to use it. How much money is in the account? That's what the kind of question that they're going to ask you for. So, how I do this problem is, what's the principal or the amount of money you start with? $4,000. Good. So 4,000 times, the interest rate is 6%. What's the decimal equivalent to 6%? No. 0.06. Be very careful. Is one decimal place off a big deal? Yeah. And then the time. How many years are we dealing with this for?
4 years.
So what is 4,000 times 0.06 times 4? How much? 960. Anybody else get that? Yeah? Okay. So that means that after 4 years, we earned $960, which isn't too bad. Now, I want to share you another little secret though. If you ever find a savings account that's going to give you 6%, would you please let me know? Because in that way I want to make money too, just like you. So if you find one that has 6%, you let me know because I want to put some money in there too. My savings account is 0.25%. That's how much interest I get. I get 0.25%. That's what I get. Savings accounts are usually never this high. But they're using this number as kind of a, just to get you to do the process down. Okay? Colin, were you going to say something?
Well, is that 6%, like interest almost?
That's the interest rate.
Oh,
That's what they would say.
Where did it even come from?
Yeah, they would say that's the interest rate. Okay? Part B. Same amount of money, same interest rate, but this time they want you to calculate it after 4 months. This is where you need to be careful. What's the principal again? 4,000, that didn't change. What's the interest rate? 0.06. That didn't change. This is what changes. Okay? This is the big thing that changes. The first one, we multiplied it by 4 because it said it was after 4 years. The time is always measured in years. This says 4 months. So what I need to know from you guys is, how many months are in a year? 4 divided by 12. Why did I divide it by 12, you guys? Because there's 12 months in a year. Okay? So we can type it in as it looks and it will give us the same answer. Or if we knew what 4 divided by 12 was as a fraction, we could do it that way too. But if it tells you how many months it is, it needs to be out of 12. So what's 4,000 times 0.06 times 4 divided by 12? How much? 80? Now, real quick, I got to do one thing. I got to back up to part A. I forgot something. Did anybody notice what I forgot? This was the interest. Did it also ask you for how much was in the account? Yeah. So what's 4,000 plus 960? So you know my scenario where you guys got $4,000 for graduation and you didn't touch it for 4 years? After 4 years, you'd have close to $5,000 in the account for doing nothing. You didn't do anything to earn that money, did you? Okay. Just like that $2 that I was trying to tell you with mine. I didn't do anything to deserve it. They just used my money to invest it, and when they do that, whatever they give me that back as a fee for letting me use it, or letting them use it. Okay. Part B said we have $80 earned. So to find the amount, I take 4,000 plus 80. So how much money is in the account now? $4,080, right? Okay. Part C says after 4 days. Okay. Notice the difference now. This one said months, so I divided it by 12. The next one's going to say 4 days. So the amount of money is still the same. We're still at $4,000. We're still at 6%, but this time it's 4 days. So 4,000 times 0.06 times 4 divided by, what are we going to have to divide this one by this time? Why, Matt? Because there's 365 days in the year. Good job, Matt. Nice work. So, what is 4,000 times 0.06 times 4 divided by 365? How much? Did anybody else get that? Yeah? Okay, so we must be doing it right. Good job, Matt. Thank you. So then that's my interest. To find the amount that's in the account, I'm going to take $4,000 plus $2.63. Is it important to make sure your decimals are in the right spot? Yes. Okay. So what is 4,000 plus $2.63? 4,002.63. So after 4 days, you made $2.63. Okay, keep this in mind. I had that in there for a month and only earned like $2. Okay, so do you see where the interest rates would come into play? This is where, if you're dealing with banking stuff, you guys need to be a good consumer and shop around. Find out where you get the better deal. Now, realistically, what happens is that means that it was done daily or computed daily. When you have monthly statements, that means it's usually it's done one time a month. If you have quarterly, that means it's done 4 times a year. Okay? Not every day. So if you get stuff like this, just remember me. Okay? If you find a 6% interest one and you found it daily, remember me. I'll help. I'll make money with you. That'd be awesome. Okay? So now, for numbers 5 through 9, it gives you a chart where it says the principal is this, the rate is that, and the time is given to you. Notice in the time column, some of them say years, some of them say months, and some of them say days. If it says months, you divide it by 12. If it says days, you divide it by 365. Okay? If it says years, you don't divide it by anything. Then on 10 and 11, now we're going to deal with word problems. Kind of like what I was trying to tell you guys. Let's say, like, here's the word problem for our first one. Brian Cisco graduated this year. He got a $4,000 gift from his grandma. Okay, how much money will he earn in interest if he deposited it in a savings account with earning 6% interest after 4 years? So all I did was I just converted that first problem into a word problem. That's all I did. And it's the same exact process. Okay? So again, to find the interest, you take the principal times by the rate times by the time. If it's not in years, you got to divide it by 12 if it's months, or 365 if it's days. That gives you the interest. Then to figure out the amount, you take the principal plus the interest. What do you guys think? Okay, so here's what I got for you. Starting on page 223 and going to 224, 1 and 2, 5 through 11.